What's up, YouTube? I want to talk about the Boston bombings that happened a day or two ago and what I think about it, I guess. The first thing that strikes me as really odd, I guess anytime you want to just blow up a bunch of people in some terrorist attack is kind of odd and, mentally unstable or whatever, but why would you just blow up a bunch of random people? Like, it doesn't seem like there's a political motivation for this attack. I can understand, I guess, some reasoning like a blowback attack, if it did come from the Middle East or some country or entity, some group that we've pissed off or had some grudge against us. I can maybe understand like the thinking behind the terrorist attack, like, oh, well, we're gonna go blow up a bunch of these assholes because we have a beef here or something. But a bunch of international runners, marathon runners, like who has beef with them? I don't think anybody. I don't see them as a threat to anybody. I think they're healthy Americans. Who goes out and runs 26 miles? Like, these people are. Who would do this to them? I just don't get it. And it seems like it's a totally random attack on totally random civilians. And what's the political motivation for that, I guess, is the question. What's the motivation for whoever pulled this attack off? And to some degree, regardless of whoever pulled this attack off, I think one thing is clear. Whatever their reasoning was, whyever they did it, whoever did it, if Americans give up any more of our freedoms, our civil liberties over this, they win. The terrorists win when we trade freedom for security. That to me seems like, well, we're just attacking a bunch of random civilians. That was the intent, to breed as much fear as possible. If they had a beef with somebody, they would have blown up a CNN newsroom or something, a bank someplace. Somebody that kind of is linked to, well, they fund these politicians, or this politician got the troops over here and started this war that made us have beef or something, Even if it was an extremist group, I can't even think of them because there probably aren't many, but whatever, if it was a disgruntled American, wouldn't he go after somebody that pissed him off? Like, they just bombed a bunch of innocent civilians. And I think that's kind of rare in terrorist attacks. Like, I don't know, everyone wants to bring up 9/11. Was that just a bunch of innocent civilians, or was that an economic center point? Like, you can kind of see some reasoning for it, and I'm not going to get into, obviously you're not thinking straight if you want to just blow up a bunch of people. Like, this terrorist shit isn't really a sane thing to begin with. But you'd think there should be some logic to why they did it, like... Alright, here's some of the logic I want to play with, because I think, either way, when I look at it, attacks on random people designed to cause as much fear as possible, who benefits? Seems to me the police state benefits, this militarization of our society, of our government. That seems to be who's benefiting here. Maybe Homeland Security, maybe even the military war machine. This could be blamed, I think, one of two ways. They're going to blame it on someone in the Middle East, probably a scary Muslim with darker skin than I have, right? And then try to take us into war, maybe in Iran or maybe in Syria. I suppose maybe they could blame it on North Korea, if this is really about furthering wars and whatnot, because to some degree Obama's supposed to be wrapping down Afghanistan, wrapping down Iraq. It's like, well, where's our war machine going to go make its money now? Is this the next thing? Let's bring that terrorism thing back, have all these Americans living in fear. Because, you just attacked a bunch of random people. Like, what does that do other than make fear? Like, that, I wonder, is that the purpose of this attack? And if that is, you must ask, who benefits from everyone just being afraid? The police state. Here's the other possibility I want to throw out. That 26-mile, the race was supposedly dedicated to Sandy Hook shootings. I'm not even going to get into what happened there, but obviously you can see Sandy Hook has been exploited for this whole gun control, gun grabbers thing, right? What I also find suspicious is the bomb blew up right in front of the finish line, right where all those cameras were set, trained, like to get this whole thing on tape, and right in front of all those flags, a bunch of international flags, a bunch of countries' flags. I think every country that had a runner in the race had a flag up there. So it almost looks like the UN or some international thing. And I wonder if they're going to try to blame this on patriotic Americans who, for various legitimate reasons, like America better than the United Nations, like our right to free speech and bear guns that most of the rest of the world doesn't have. So there are a lot of patriots who take issue with that. And I don't think they would be dumb enough to just go blow up a bunch of runners. Because what does that accomplish other than demonize patriots, demonize people who like freedom and guns, demonize people who are skeptical of the Sandy Hook story or the way the media is reporting it, and the obvious attempt to regulate and infringe upon our gun rights from this. So I think the media might want to portray this attack as being an extremist, domestic, terrorist, patriot, gun rights advocate, something like that. If they can make him a Muslim too, bonus points, right? And then what would that do? Who would benefit from that? Well, there's another excuse to bring in the police state. You know what I mean? Let's take the wars from fucking overseas and bring them home, start putting cameras on every street corner, get our troops here, start stopping, searching, all that bullshit. But what just really strikes me as odd is the motive. They're just trying to cause as much fear as possible. They just blew up a bunch of random marathon runners. Who the fuck does that, you know? If it was patriot groups who are mad about the gun rights people, I mean, they'd probably be going after the media. They'd probably be going after CNN newsrooms or some shit. Whatever. But nobody gains. No political extremist group who might think that they need to do some terrorist activity is going to benefit from just blowing up a bunch of random marathon runners. So to me, this attack was designed to instill fear into Americans. And I think regardless of whoever did it, there's going to be a push. Because it could be, I mean, whatever, an actual terrorist, some random dude out there who figured out how to cook up some bomb. But one other thing, that bomb probably could have been placed in a more densely populated area, killing more people if that's really what this bomber was trying to do. But he chose to place it right in front of all those cameras at the finish line in arguably the most secure area in the city, or one of them that day. Like, I mean, if he just got on a densely crowded bus or elevator someplace on the outskirts of town, like, I'm sure he could have found an area. But it seems to me like, no, I want this on TV. I want this to really scare those Americans, you know? Kind of like the 9/11. And then how many times am I going to hear references to the post-9/11 era in reporting this fucking Boston Marathon bomb? And the other thing I'm sick of is I don't care about Israel. You don't need to keep bringing it up every time there's a terrorist attack. Like, oh, those people in Israel are so used to doing the terrorist attack. They're so used to having terrorist attacks done in Israel, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say, if I have to guess, just like 9/11, this attack's probably Mossad and CIA or something to further the U.S. war machine and the police state at home. Some combination of that. We'll likely see Muslims blamed for it, or extremists, anti-government, right? Small government, states' rights, patriots, militiamen, whatever you want to call it. But why the hell was the 26 Mile dedicated to Sandy Hook anyway? Like, man, this was months ago, and you just want to keep living that up, living that up. I think the only thing that we can certainly tell about this attack was Ron Paul didn't do it, because they're actually covering this, you know? Like, American media will give fucking you more coverage and free press time if you just blow something up or kill a bunch of innocent people than they will if you actually are out on some legitimate political point trying to make a change. Like, that's why they censored Ron Paul. And I bet you Ron Paul could go fucking openly blow up fucking the Boston Marathon and eat a baby or some shit, and the mainstream media wouldn't report it because they wouldn't want people to, oh, who's this Ron Paul guy? Oh, he wrote that book about ending the Fed. You know, they'd just silence it. He could do something that obscene and the mainstream media would not do it. But, so here's the drinking game. Every time in reporting of the Boston Marathon bombing, they say, post 9/11 era, you do a shot. And every time they bring up Israel, in reporting about this bombing and how terrorism is so closely linked to Israel and how those poor Israelis have to deal with it on a constant basis, blah, 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 you have to do a shot. There was one more I forgot, but either way, I think it's clear. Whoever did it, for whatever reason, if we trade any of our freedoms, any of our civil liberties over another terrorist attack and just let the reactionary politics of somebody doing something horrible be justification for taking away more of our rights, then we lost. You know, America's going to come together, we'll be strong. I feel bad for the runners and the people that were hurt, and it's awful, you know. People who can go out and run 26 miles? I mean, that's a feat in itself. And to think that that's hard work that I don't want to do. But, you know, those people are out trying to better their bodies, doing the right thing, getting in shape, and then somebody blows their fucking legs off. I really feel for them. It's awful. But we can't trade civil liberties or freedoms for this. Have a good day.